So this video is going to be a sequel to A Day in the Life of Local Crime. This is part two. We're going to go through another day, and what I'm going to try to get across to you is that what people are telling you about crime is wrong. I'm going to tell you the entire group of people who were arrested in one day in my city, which is half white and half black, and then I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions about what crime looks like and what's causing it. Is it the drug war, or is it something else? Is it a host of other things? So let's get started. First person, homeless man. Black male, 45 years old, arrested for resisting an officer and public drunkenness. Second person, black guy, about 30 years old, is arrested for disturbing the peace. Next person, black guy, about 30 years old, arrested for selling forged license plates. Forged temporary license plates. That's a new one for me. That's really interesting. Next person, subject failed to register as a sex offender. If you're a sex offender, you have strict rules on where you can live and how you have to keep your address and personal information current with the local law enforcement. If you don't keep that information current, you have committed a crime and they'll put your ass back in jail. No new sex crimes were committed, but it's kind of like it's a police state for sex offenders, basically. Next person, and that person was a 30-year-old black guy. Next one's a 35-year-old black guy arrested for failing to register as a sex offender. Next one is a 28-year-old black guy. Subject failed to register as a sex offender. You're seeing a pattern here. This didn't all just happen in the sense that they didn't all just decide not to register, but local law enforcement went and did a roundup. They went around looking for all these people because they have a list of who's supposed to register, and if they haven't come in to register, they know they're in violation. So they go to their family, they go to their girlfriend, they go to their children's mother, their grandmother's house. They go all these places looking for these people, and if they find them, they arrest them. Next one, black guy, 35 years old, arrested for battery in the second degree. He struck the victim in the face with a closed fist, and the victim received a laceration over his left eye, and he was taken into custody. Battery in the second degree. Next one, 20-year-old black guy, on listed date and time, the suspect was found to have an active warrant. The warrant was for no insurance. So they were doing, basically that kind of stop and frisk thing, where you're just going around messing with people and checking to see who they are. Or he got pulled over in a car with someone else, and they said, let me see everybody's ID. They looked him up. They found he had a warrant. Not talking about the method or anything. I'm not going to comment on that at this time, but that's how it happened. Next one, black guy, about 50 years old, arrested for domestic abuse battery. Next one, black guy, 40 years old, arrested on a warrant for a driver's license being suspended. So what does that mean? He was issued a ticket one day, he didn't go to court, he didn't pay it, he got pulled over again a year later or something, they found he had a warrant, so they arrested him. White guy, 60 years old, subject failed to register as a sex offender. Next one, white guy, 65 years old, subject failed to register as a sex offender. Next one, black guy, subject found to have a criminal warrant for domestic abuse battery, 3 traffic tickets, and then 2 fugitive warrants from another jurisdiction. So this guy had crimes going on all over the place, and this is a perfect example of the way that the criminal justice reform people mislead you. This guy is not untypical. He had a warrant for domestic abuse battery and also traffic. So do you want to classify him as a violent criminal or not? He almost certainly beat up a woman that he was living with, or was accused of it at least. So is he violent or not? If you've got a violent crime in your history, which many of these repeat offenders do, are you non-violent if you only get arrested for new crimes? What if it's a misdemeanor? So this is a misdemeanor domestic abuse battery charge, which sometimes could involve choking a woman until she loses consciousness. In some jurisdictions, that's a felony. With some police officers, it's a felony, and other police officers, it's not. It all depends on the day, the time, the place, and how lucky you are in the circumstances. So, anyhow, that's for you to determine. Next one, 30-year-old black guy. Let's see here. That was a duplicate. Okay, 50-year-old black woman. Subject placed a pair of shoes inside her purse and fled from a store without paying for the items. Subject was found to be storing a crack pipe in her mouth once she was booked in at the jail. So she's got a theft charge, she had drug paraphernalia, and she had it inside the jail. So that's a crazy one right there. Literally, what people would call a crackhead, I think. Pretty miserable life, I guess. Next one, 30-year-old black guy. Subject turned himself in on an active warrant for hit-and-run driving. So this guy did what some people do, which is you find out you have a warrant, either that you know that they're looking for you, or you know that you missed court, and therefore you have a bench warrant, and he just went down to the jail and turned himself in. Responsible, right? Maybe it's not good to do hit-and-run driving, but if you've done it, and you know they're looking for you, you got to turn yourself in. Good for him. Didn't cost the law enforcement or the taxpayer. Didn't put anybody at risk. Okay, 55-year-old black woman, fugitive from another jurisdiction. And yes, when she was arrested, she did have her food stamp card in her possession. That's really funny, right? If you go looking through the property list of all the people who are booked into the jail, food stamp cards are not uncommon. Why? Because poor people are bad people? No. But because the number of criminals and repeat criminals are drawn from a non-random group. Okay? We'll get much more in detail and depth into that later, I promise you. Next one, 50-year-old black guy, criminal trespassing. They told him to get out and he wouldn't leave. So they called the cops and they arrested him. Let's see, 20-year-old black woman, arrested for stealing, theft of goods. And, right, of course she had money on her. Okay, let's see, 30-year-old white male, arrested for failing to register as a sex offender. All right, 25-year-old black female, officer was dispatched in reference to shoplifting. Subject attempted to steal item without paying for it. It's redundant, but okay, you get the idea. Theft of goods. 40-year-old white male. Subject found to have a warrant from another jurisdiction. Food stamp card. Right. 35-year-old black female arrested for disturbing the peace and also had a warrant for criminal mischief from 3 years ago. So, old charge, criminal mischief. It's like one of the lowest level misdemeanors that you can have. Criminal mischief is like, defacing someone's door, like writing a bad word on someone's door that's not hate speech or something. It's trivial stuff. But at the same time, it's the most trivial thing you can go to jail for, basically, other than a traffic ticket that you didn't pay. But when she got arrested for this new charge of disturbing the peace, they found the sole warrant. 20-year-old white female, baby girl was wasted, DWI, tickets, open container. 20-year-old white male, arrested and booked on criminal trespass, wouldn't leave, wouldn't go home. 35-year-old black male, arrested on suspended driver's license. Didn't go to court, didn't pay it. 20-year-old black male, 3 traffic tickets, didn't go to court, didn't pay it. 40-year-old white male, got arrested for panhandling. Turned out he had a warrant for another jurisdiction from 2004. "35-year-old black male, subject failure to register as a sex offender, and also found to have a felony warrant for theft of a motor vehicle." So consider that. this guy has already committed a sex crime and he's also stealing cars. Those are two completely different types of crime. One of them is a thing that society said is morally reprehensible and damaging to another person. The other thing is theft. Those are property versus personal, right? Sex versus theft. Different types of crimes, he's doing both of them. This is not entirely uncommon, and this is different than the criminal justice reform and prison abolition people would tell you. They would say that these different kinds of crimes are caused by different things. 20-year-old white male fugitive from another jurisdiction. We don't know what it's for. 30-year-old black male felony theft. Doesn't say what he stole or where. 25-year-old black female arrested on child desertion. What is child desertion? It's not abandoning your child at the footsteps of a church, all right? Like some sort of 19th or 18th century French novel or something. It specifically refers to you're driving down the street and you see a child playing in the gutter. We're talking about like a 4-year-old playing in the gutter of a street. And you pull over and you're like, hey kid, where's your parents? And they're like, I don't know. So you call the cops. The cops come out. They pick up the kid. They start knocking door to door and saying, do you know whose kid this is? Do you know whose kid this is? And they finally find the house that the parent lives in, and they walk inside, and the parent's been on the cell phone the whole time, or they're watching TV or something, and they have no idea that their child got loose. So I'm going to say first off that can happen to anybody, that it can happen to anybody, but also there probably needs to be some kind of punishment, because this happens way more often than you would think, especially in certain parts of town with certain economic indicators. So that's how that works. So that's one day. That's one day in the life of local crime. And what did we have? We had a raid. We had a warrant roundup on the sex offenders, and then a bunch of people arrested for all the basic stuff. There weren't really any drug crimes in here today. So the war on drugs wasn't really effective at putting people in jail. What we did have, on the other hand, was a bunch of people getting arrested on warrants, which means they weren't going to court. And that means that either the criminal justice system is not enough of a deterrent to get people to do what they're supposed to do, or people have a disregard for law and order in general, or that they don't have enough money, I don't know, and they don't feel like they can pay their fines and court costs, I don't know. But that's one more day, so this was part 2, or I'll do more of these. Thank you for your time. If you have any observations or comments, please list them below. Thanks.